Hello! Well, a couple of weeks ago I did a video where I talked about the health consequences of consuming too much fructose in our diet. And in that video I talked about the harm that fructose can actually cause in our liver and the follow-through metabolic consequences of that. And indeed, in that video, I labeled fructose as an evil nutrient. And I actually stand by that claim. It is an evil nutrient. So it sort of makes sense that today I should talk to you about some foods that actually have high fructose content in them. And the idea behind this video is that you become aware of some of these foods and then you become mindful of how much of those foods you consume. That's what's coming up next. You stay tuned. I'll see you in a couple of seconds.
Now for today's 2020 idea to better health, please welcome on stage Dr. Joe.
Welcome back. I'm Dr. Joe of the drjoe.com. Now, if this is your first time on this channel, can I extend a warm welcome to you? This is your home of 2020 Ideas to Better Health. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please do subscribe. And also, please don't forget to click on the notification bell because that is how you get notified of future videos that I make. So today's video is about foods that have high fructose content in them. It sort of makes sense that you become aware of these foods. That way you become mindful of how much of them you consume. So without further ado, let's get into the meat of this presentation.
So yes, in this presentation, I'm going to give you examples of 11 foods that have the potential to actually overload your liver with fructose. Now, I can give you more than 40 examples of such foods, but the idea behind this presentation is just to give you a flavor of the types of food that will get you thinking outside the box, and that way you can make better food choices the next time you go to your supermarket to make your food purchase. Now, the thing to remember is that your liver can only deal with so much fructose. The excess of it, the liver is going to convert to fat, and that will result in non-alcoholic fatty liver. And of course, that has metabolic consequences. So you want to be careful with how much fructose you actually consume. Now, the next thing I want to point out is that in this presentation, the figures that I'm going to refer to actually apply to the fructose component only. I'm totally ignoring the glucose aspect of it. So for argument's sake, you can multiply whatever figure I give to you in this presentation by a factor of 2. Now, if you do that, that will give you an idea of the sugar content of that particular food. So let's get started. Now, the first food I want to talk about is grape juice. A 16-ounce glass of grape juice actually contains 36 grams of fructose. That's the equivalent of 9 teaspoons of fructose. So as you can tell, grape juice is actually a fructose bomb. The next high fructose food that has the potential to cause us fatty liver is high fructose corn syrup. As the name suggests, high fructose corn syrup actually contains lots of fructose. Indeed, it is made up of 55% fructose, compared to regular sugar that has 50% fructose in it. Now, fructose is twice as sweet as glucose, and that's the reason why high fructose corn syrup is a very sweet product. That ad you see on the right there was run over a century ago. At the time, the company that manufactured the product actually ran the ad to convince consumers to actually buy high fructose corn syrup instead of regular sugar, because it is sweeter and is also cheaper. And because it is sweet and cheap, that's the reason why lots of food manufacturers today actually use high fructose corn syrup as a sweetening agent for a lot of their products. And for me, because high fructose corn syrup is universally used in a lot of products, I believe it is a major driver to a lot of the metabolic problems that we actually have today. Now, there's a sweet story behind high fructose corn syrup. The guy who actually formulated the product, his wife's name was Caroline, and he named the product Caro after his wife. Oh, how very sweet of him. But that is where the beauty of this product actually ends. As far as I'm concerned, high fructose corn syrup is a food that is best avoided because it is very easy to overconsume it. And of course, when you do that, you're going to overload your liver with so much fructose. Next is candy. Now, we all love our candies, but you need to be aware that if you consume 100 grams of your typical candy product, that is actually supplying you with 26 grams of fructose. That's more than 6 teaspoons of fructose. Next is apple pie. Yummy, tasty. Now, one slice of apple pie actually has 1.5 teaspoons of fructose in it. And we all know because of how tasty it is, you're going to eat more than one slice. So something you want to be careful about is apple pie. Next is honey. Now, honey is usually touted as a healthy sugar substitute because it's all natural. But the truth of the matter is that honey actually has fructose in it. 1 tablespoonful of honey has 8.6 grams of fructose, which is more than 2 teaspoons of fructose. So even though honey is natural, it's still got fructose, and you want to be careful about how much of honey you actually consume. Now, the next food I want to talk about is maple syrup. Now, maple syrup is also touted as a very good table sugar substitute. But something you want to be aware of is that, in actual fact, the main sugar in maple syrup is made up of sucrose, which is basically table sugar. In that respect, 1 tablespoonful of maple syrup actually contains 6 grams of fructose, which is the equivalent of 1.5 teaspoons of fructose. So you want to be careful whether you want to be pouring so much maple syrup in your pancakes, pouring so much of it in your cereal, or when you're baking, whether you want to be using so much of it, because maple syrup does carry quite a good amount of fructose in it. Next food is Burger King Whopper with cheese. Now, 1 Burger King Whopper with cheese actually contains 6.5 grams of fructose in it, which is more than 1.5 teaspoons of fructose. So when we talk about the fact that fast foods like Burger King, McDonald's, the fact that they're bad for you because they contain high levels of salt, sugar, and fat, this is what we're referring to. Next is sweetened fruit yogurt. Now, yogurt in the wholesome sense of it is actually a good food, but the sweetened variety actually is bad for you because a 5-ounce cup of sweetened fruit yogurt contains 6.7 grams of fructose. That's more than 1.5 teaspoons of fructose. So you want to be careful about whether you want to be consuming sweetened fruit yogurt. Next is dried cranberries. Now, dried fruits in general actually have high sugar content. Now, a 1/4 cup of dried cranberries contains 10.8 grams of fructose, which is more than 2.5 teaspoons of fructose. So you really want to be careful whether you want to be consuming lots of dried cranberries, just like other dried fruits. Next is soda drinks, which is soft drinks to some of us. Now, I cannot do this presentation without talking about soda drinks because they are actually a sugar bomb. A 12-ounce can of soda drink actually contains 25 grams of fructose. That's more than 6 teaspoons of fructose alone. We're not talking about the glucose component of it now. So the fact that soda drinks are actually bad for you is indisputable. Next is canned fruits. Now, this is one situation that actually makes my blood boil because food manufacturers, they know that fruits are sweet enough. Now, is there any point in adding high fructose corn syrup as a storage medium? I just don't get it at all. Now, in respect of that, 1 can of canned fruit, of a typical canned fruit, contains 22 grams of fructose in it. That's more than 5 teaspoons of fructose. And that's because food manufacturers are adding high fructose corn syrup as a storage medium for those canned fruits. For me, that's just totally irresponsible. Now, is there any wonder why we're all gaining weight? Is there any wonder why we're all becoming diabetic? Is there any wonder why we're all becoming hypertensive? Is there any wonder why we're all developing fatty liver? This is just crazy.
So there you are. That was just a collection of some of those foods. There are more. Like I said in the video, I could give you 40 more examples, but you can easily extrapolate from those examples that I've given you in that video. Now, if you like this video, as usual, give it a thumbs up. Please share this video with your friends, family, and colleagues. And as usual, if you got any comments, any questions, please make them down below. And I think that's about it. Until next time, well, this is Dr. Joe signing out.